Tom Cassidy here. I've got Kieran Doherty with me. Kieran's just back from an assignment with Oxfam. He's been shooting a series of images to go with the South Sudan emergency appeal. Kieran, you're going to talk to us about a very striking image now. What's this one all about? What's going on with this one?
Well, while we were out in South Sudan, there was a cholera outbreak.
Right.
And so we went to see, to film and photograph what Oxfam were doing in response to the cholera outbreak. And we ended up going to this. This is a graveyard that these people have built their shelters on. And this lady in particular, she's 18 years old, a lady called Stima, and that's her youngest of four.
Wow.
Who's just under a year old, Moses. And at the time this picture was taken, they both had suspected cholera.
Right.
So I just took this portrait because she's an unbelievably beautiful woman, and she had such dignity and such poise in amongst this situation that she was living in, considering the afflictions they had at the time.
And is there anything particular from your photojournalist brain that's going on in your mind where you're taking this type of shot? Or
well, interesting enough, as I was actually taking pictures of Stima sitting outside her tent, and I sort of turned around and looked at that gap where you can see her standing now, and I saw another man walking up in the gap, and I saw the light hit his face, and that's when I immediately knew this is where I'm going to take a portrait of Stima. And I shot a few portraits, and this was the first picture. This was the first frame that I took, and for me it's the one that encapsulates everything. There are a lot of other beautiful pictures of her after this, but not one that
just really does it.
That's
it's got so much grace in that picture, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It makes so much difference, actually knowing what's going on. That's the whole idea of the story behind, isn't it? And I suppose that's what photojournalists do. They tell the story. Tell us about the hand and the arm, because you did you mentioned that in another conversation we had about the arm and the way the arm was down.
Yes, it was because while I was taking a picture, I mean, this was, like I say, this was the first frame that I took, and she was probably not quite comfortable with the camera, and by the time I shot the second frame, her hand had come up under the child, and that sort of vulnerability had gone in my mind, because the hand was that was her at her most natural, before she decided to
kind of almost pose or
absolutely.
Brilliant. Okay, so thanks very much. That's the story behind the image, and that's Kieran Doherty, leading photojournalist, recently back from South Sudan as part of Oxfam's emergency appeal. So thanks very much for your time, Kieran.